Ignoring someone is rarely as simple as it looks. On the surface, it might seem like silence. No messages sent, no calls answered, no visible reaction. But psychologically, ignoring someone can carry layers of meaning, emotion, and power dynamics that are much deeper than absence of communication. Have you ever wondered why silence can sometimes feel louder than words? Sometimes, ignoring someone is not about hatred or anger. It's about emotional protection. When conversations feel exhausting, confusing, or emotionally draining, your mind may choose distance as a coping mechanism. It's not always a conscious decision. Sometimes your brain simply decides that engagement is no longer safe or productive. What if silence is not rejection, but self-preservation? There is also a psychological concept behind being ignored. Humans are wired for social connection. When someone stops responding or withdraws attention, the brain can interpret it as social exclusion. That triggers discomfort, anxiety, or curiosity. You may start thinking about what went wrong, what you said, what you did, or what you didn't do. And sometimes the uncertainty hurts more than a direct answer. Why does the absence of closure feel heavier than the truth itself? On the other side, people sometimes use ignoring as a form of emotional control. In certain relationships, silence can be used to create distance, induce attention, or regain power in a dynamic where emotions are intense. When communication becomes a battlefield, silence can feel like a strategy, but strategies built on silence often create more confusion than resolution. Is silence meant to solve conflict, or sometimes to avoid confronting it? If you are the one being ignored, you might experience a strange mix of emotions. First comes confusion, then curiosity, then self-questioning. Your mind starts searching for explanations. Did they lose interest? Are they upset? Did something change? This uncertainty can activate anxiety, because humans prefer even painful certainty over ambiguous silence. Is it possible that not knowing hurts more than hearing something unpleasant? The hardest part is how being ignored affects self-worth. Even if you logically understand that someone's silence is not a measure of your value, emotionally, it can still feel personal. You might start analyzing yourself, overthinking your behavior, replaying interactions, trying to locate the moment when things shifted. And that mental search can become exhausting. Why do we sometimes treat silence as proof that something is wrong with us? But it is important to remember that ignoring someone often reveals more about the person doing the ignoring than the person being ignored. People withdraw for many reasons: emotional overwhelm, lack of interest, conflict avoidance, or simply needing space to process feelings. Not every silence carries hostility or judgment. Sometimes it carries confusion or personal struggle. What if their silence is not about you at all? However, being ignored repeatedly in close relationships can become emotionally damaging. When silence replaces communication in patterns, it creates instability. You begin walking on emotional eggshells, wondering when the next withdrawal will happen. This uncertainty can slowly increase stress and reduce emotional safety in the relationship. How can trust grow in an environment where responses are unpredictable? There is also power in choosing not to chase someone who is ignoring you. Constantly seeking attention can reinforce a dynamic where your effort is taken for granted. Healthy connection requires mutual participation. If communication is only maintained by one person's persistence, imbalance begins to form. What happens when you stop running after someone who keeps walking away? Ignoring someone can also be a signal of emotional maturity when used wisely. Sometimes stepping back allows emotions to settle. It prevents impulsive reactions during conflict. It creates mental space for reflection. Silence can be constructive when it is paired with self-awareness and intention rather than avoidance. Is silence helping you think or helping you escape? If you are the one considering ignoring someone, it's worth asking yourself why. Are you trying to protect your peace? Are you trying to punish someone emotionally? Are you avoiding a conversation you fear? Understanding your motivation matters because silence carries psychological impact, whether you intend it or not. What is the real reason behind your silence? The paradox of ignoring someone is that it can create both distance and curiosity. Sometimes the person being ignored may become more interested because the human brain often values what becomes less available. But relying on this effect can turn relationships into emotional games rather than genuine connections. Do you want their attention or meaningful connection? Ultimately, ignoring someone is not inherently good or bad. It depends on context, intention, and pattern. Silence can be a shield, a boundary, a punishment, or sometimes a cry for space. What matters is honesty with yourself about why the silence exists. Because at the end of the day, true emotional strength is not in winning silent battles. It is in knowing when to speak, when to listen, and when to step back without letting silence turn into emotional confusion. And maybe the most important question is this: are you using silence to protect your peace? Or are you using it because you don't know how to face what comes next? Like, subscribe, and join our journey into timeless depth. Share your thoughts below.